since the Carolina Hurricanes officially have won round one, only thing left to do now is recap it.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I am your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I'm also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is another weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. I'm very excited to bring you guys a Thursday edition of the show. We're going to go over a recap of round one, who kind of stood out for the Carolina Hurricanes, get a points update for the playoffs before they get into their round two matchup against the New York Rangers. Also going to talk about the press conference today that on Wednesday that Don Waddell had. So we're going to go over that a little bit, talk about the main points that were mentioned during that press conference. A lot of things happened in that as well. And also going to have to talk about the Rod Brind'Amour contract talks that seems to be a big thing that was talked about on Wednesday after the Hurricanes, won on Tuesday night to defeat the New York Islanders, and a lot of contract talks with Rod Brind'Amour. But before we get into all that stuff for a jam-packed Thursday edition of the show, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. So, like I said, that the first segment is really going to be talking about, round one, kind of recapping, everything that happened in the Hurricanes 4-1 series win against the New York Islanders, kind of just talking about some key players that played a big role in the Hurricanes being able to end the series in 5 on home ice on Tuesday night, and now that they get to get ready to play the New York Rangers in round two. So the big thing you would really have to take away is the fact that you look at how good the goaltending was. And most of it, when I say goaltending, we're talking about, of course, Frederik Andersen. He did start all 5 games in round one for the Carolina Hurricanes. He was a big, big part, kept them kept them in all the games, didn't give up no more than 3 goals in any game for the entire series, which is really, really good to see for the fact that you look at the Islanders side, where they gave up 5 and 6 respectively in a couple different games and stuff like that. But the fact that Frederik Andersen held the Islanders to 3 goals or less in all 5 games really speaks to how good he was for Carolina. And I know the second period of Game 5 wasn't really the greatest for the fact that the Islanders did come back and tie it very, very late. That last goal that the Islanders scored, like I said on Wednesday's show, you really can't put that on Frederik Andersen and stuff like that. But overall, I think he had a great series. Hopefully this rest gives him some time to, just regroup, refocus a little bit, and just give him a breather, because like I said, he played all 5 games. We didn't really get to see a period of Kochetkov at all in the first round. And I think giving Frederik Andersen this rest, because he hasn't played this many games in a row since the start of the season, essentially, before, he missed over 40 games with his blood clotting issues. So the fact that, even when he came back, he still was every other day with Peter Kochetkov. And now you come into the playoffs and it's Frederik Andersen all 5 games, and he took care of business. So for Freddie, in those 5 games, he had a 4-1 record with a 2.25 goals against average and a .912 save percentage. And when you break that down, and that's including a double overtime game against the New York Islanders as well in Game 4, you really can't be too upset with those numbers. You really can't, because like I said, you're over a 910, which is what you want. You want to have a goal within the 910s. 920s is really good too, and stuff like that. That's where Freddie was, and for most of the series, but even still being in the 912, you'll take that. You'll take that for any goalie for the fact that he stopped a lot of pucks. He did a really phenomenal job, all in all. He saved 124 shots that, he saw 136, saved 124. granted, he didn't get a shutout, but honestly, sometimes shutouts are tough to get, especially in the playoffs. But how good Frederick Anderson did, even when the Hurricanes had their slow starts, he was that calming presence that really helped the team out and really kept them in games. And that's what you saw. And the fact is, you have a goalie that will, I guess you could say, steal you games. I don't know if Freddie really stole games. He just did his job, and he, made some great saves, and the defense did help him a lot too. And the fact that, the team was able to play their game because of the guy they had behind them in the net. And if you're looking at someone to be like, okay, this guy was a big factor, and someone that you could probably look at and be like, okay, this guy could be your first round MVP for the Hurricanes, Frederick Anderson would be a great selection if you want to look at it that way, just of how good he was in net. Another guy we really have to talk about, and he had a great career. He already had a career regular season in his third year. And, the fact that he was able to get over 30 goals, over 60 points, and just continued that run from the regular season and took him to the first round of the playoffs, starting out on the first line, with Aho and Gensel, and then moves down to Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook for a couple of games. And then the last game, they were, all three of them were, it was still Seth Jarvis with Jordan Stahl, but they had another line mate as well. And they still got the job done. And especially this guy got the job done, and that is Seth Jarvis, the third-year Carolina Hurricane, career year regular season, led the teams in, power play goals, had a couple big ones in the first round for the Carolina Hurricanes. And he is right now currently your points leader for the Hurricanes after round one. 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points. Oh, and he's also a +4. And like I said, he got his 1 power play goal. He actually took 11 shots in 5 games, and his shooting percentage is a 27.3. So he is absolutely lighting it at a super high clip, and that's something you really want to see. And for the fact that Seth Jarvis, like I said, starting, first line, going down to third, getting a different left winger, for game 5, and he still is getting the job done. He's still doing the things that Rod Brind'Amour wants him to do, and still be able to contribute anywhere that he needs. A power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5, no matter what zone it is. He keeps showing what he learned, what he worked on in, last season. Working on his 200-foot game, working as a more defensive side, goes into the, last off season, gained some muscle, wanted to be a more physical player, bring more of his 200-foot game. And you saw it this year with the points he had, goals, assists, finishing second on the team in points. And now he comes into the playoffs, first round, leads the team in points. He's tied for the goal lead with Steph Nason. I mean, how good that Seth Jarvis has been in the first round. I don't know any other guy. There's maybe 1 or 2 other guys you could say that should be, if you want to consider a first round MVP or a first round guy who stepped up and carried the team. I would definitely say Seth Jarvis is one of them. Second on the team in assists as well. He tied Martin Necas and Andrei Svechnikov, but he was only 1 point. He was only 1 assist behind Brady Shea. And the fact that Seth Jarvis at 22, his third ever playoff, and he made his presence felt, scored big goals when they needed him to, set up great assists, threw some big hits, especially game 1. He threw a huge hit game 1 on Noah Dobson. I think that really kind of set the tone for this whole series, and for the fact of just where he's at 5'10", barely at 180 pounds. The fact that he is someone, and of course there's always that, oh, he's too short, like how good is he going to be? Is he physical enough? You saw it. He's physical. His height doesn't really matter. He's not afraid to hit the, go into the corner for puck battles. He throws the body around. He's got the speed. He's got the creativity. Like, I don't care. Like, yes, he's a restricted free agent going into this offseason. I don't care how much money it is. if you can make it work and it's beneficial for Seth and the team, give him a long-term contract, give him the AAV, and let's just be done with it. Because I don't know. Yes, it's only round one of the 2024 NHL playoffs, but Seth Jarvis right now is a man on a mission. And for the fact that he already leads his team, like I said, in the points, tied for goal lead, only 1 assist behind, and he's got a +4, and his shooting percentage is over 23%. I don't know what more you can ask out of this guy. He's just playing really well, and hopefully see more of that as it come down the line. So another player I would definitely have to say that has to, make a name that you could put in there. I would say Andrei Svechnikov. 1 goal he got in Game 5, 4 assists for 5 points. Like, you'll take that. Yes, it took him a little bit to score goals, but he was, creating plays. He was throwing the body around. He was doing all the things, that the team really wanted, and he did that. He started lower on the line, starting that third line. He swapped with Seth Jarvis, and, he played really, really well once he was with Aho and Gensel. Like I said, you'll take that 1 goal and 4 assists. Yeah, he's a -2, but you really can't be upset with how Andre played in round 1. I would say if you want to look at, Frederick Anderson, Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov, you could say Steph Nason. Yeah, he only has 3 points, but it's 3 goals, and they were all pretty clutch goals too. Got the 1 power play goal. Mr. Net Front. If you want to throw another name in, I would definitely say Steph Nason in terms of just all those guys who made their presence felt in round 1. So, but if you ask me personally who I would pick, I would either go Frederick Anderson just because of how good he was in net, or you go with Seth Jarvis. And if you're just looking past the points, he's doing everything that Rod wants him to do, and he's doing it really well, especially for the fact that this is his 3rd playoffs ever. Like, he's made the playoffs all 3 years of his career so far, and right now he's continuing his stellar regular season with an automatically great start to his postseason and all that good stuff. But that will wrap up, just kind of recapping round 1. We know the Hurricanes won 4-1. They get the New York Rangers next. Just kind of wanted to, give us a points update, see where everyone's at, stats-wise and stuff like that, see where we are. We know the Hurricanes had some not so great second periods, but overall, they played really great hockey. A lot of good comebacks. It's a good thing to see the fact that you ended in 5. You did it on home ice. Now you get ready for the New York Rangers and all that good stuff. So up next, we are going to talk about the Don Waddell presser. A lot of good topics that were brought up in the conversations with him, and we'll get to that here in a second on a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Welcome back to a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Here in segment 2, we are going to talk about the Don Waddell press conference that was held on Wednesday morning, and there was a few things to go talk about in terms of the fact that there's some injury updates, Tony DeAngelo, Brett Pesce, Jesper Faust, and then there's also talking about AHL affiliations, because I know that was a whole thing all this past offseason with the fact that the Chicago Wolves wanted to go independent. They did. The Hurricanes had to loan almost all their guys out to different, AHL teams or go back overseas. Even some guys playing with the Norfolk Admiral in the ECHL. So there's some updates on that possibly. And then also there's just a lot there's a lot going on. There's no days off for Don Waddell. And so when it comes to the injuries, so they asked about Tony DeAngelo because he did miss the last 5 minutes of Game 5 on Tuesday night because of I guess there was a slash on his wrist, and he had to go down the tunnel, and he was supposed to get an MRI. So the X-rays they were all negative, and he is feeling better as of Wednesday. So as of right now, he could be fine. The fact that they got some rest, and with potentially, from what I'm hearing, the schedule could be Game 1 of the series might be Sunday for Hurricanes Rangers for round 2. So giving the fact that he's got Wednesday through Saturday to kind of rest up, and depending on when Brett Pesce might be back, Tony DeAngelo could be potentially ready to go for Game 1 on what's tentatively Sunday for Game 1 of round 2. But for Tony DeAngelo, X-rays came back negative. He is feeling better today. In terms of Brett Pesce with his lower body injury, he is out of a walking boot officially. And if everything goes expected in terms of the rest of his recovery and the fact that he's out of his boot, he should be able to be playing games in round 2. Now, they're not saying it's Game 1 yet, if it's 100%, but he will be back for round 2 at least. So we will see Brett Pesce back in the lineup sometime in round 2. They just don't know what game specifically, but it's a good sign that he's not going to be missing the entire playoffs or potentially round 2. So it's good to see that, there is a progress. There's an update to Brett Pesce to possibly see him in some games very, very soon. But they will have him. It's a good thing that he'll be available at some point. Maybe not Game 1, but at least he will be available. So with Jesper Fast, he is in a neck brace as of the news from Don Waddell. He is in a neck brace. So CT scans and MRIs revealed that he did suffer injury to a muscle in his neck. They're not sure. They didn't say specifically what it is, but they are also saying that he should be reevaluated in 2 weeks to see how all that's progressing as well. So at least there is some news. Luckily, hopefully it's not super serious. Like I said, it is a neck muscle injury from what they're saying, but there is going to be some updates probably here in a couple of weeks once he gets reevaluated in terms of all that. So, just really got to just, hopefully, it keeps getting better for him and stuff like that. So it's just, the fact they're also saying it's the muscle is like one of the most important muscles for the entire body. So that's kind of why they didn't really want to rush this and just kind of let this play out itself. And even Don Waddell said it too, in the fact that, when it comes to these type of decisions, this isn't a Rod or Don decision. This is purely a doctor's decision. We're not going to take a chance with somebody, especially when you're talking about the neck area, which they're right. Like for something like this, you really don't want to take a chance on that. And I don't blame the Hurricanes, for wanting to just keep playing this out, wait it out to see where they're at in a couple weeks. But at least, they're taking the precautions to take care of Jesper Fast. Hopefully, like I said, it's nothing super, super serious. And then hopefully, he'll be okay and, still be able to play hockey and stuff like that. Because that's a really big, serious thing, especially when it's a neck muscle and something like that. But like I said, 2 weeks from now, we'll get reevaluated. Maybe we'll get an update on Jesper Fast and all that stuff. That was more so of the injuries. Like I said, Tony DeAngelo came back fine. Should probably see him back very, very soon. Brett Pesce, you will see him back for round 2. They're just not sure when. And like I said, with Jesper Fast, there's going to be some reevaluations very soon. Now, in terms of AHL affiliations, things have really been ramping up. So in term with how Don Waddell put it and all that stuff, is the fact that they are in a very quick timeline for an announcement regarding an AHL affiliate for the 2024-25 season. Now, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, One of those things coming from Andrew Rinaldi of the Calder Times, who is the Chicago Wolves beat writer, in terms that there is a good possibility that we will see a Carolina Hurricanes Chicago Wolves reunion after the Wolves decide to go independent for the 2023-24 season. But there are some reports and there's some ramping ups of possibly a reunite, both sides being reunited. And also it could be a multi-year deal. They don't know how long for sure. Could be 3, could be 4 years. It all just depends. But just from what I've heard and from what, Andrew Rinaldi has said, that this could be a thing where it could be Carolina and Chicago kind of reuniting back with itself. So it's good to see that there's, a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of just all this craziness and the fact that you're looking at a potential, how that's working out. And even Don Waddell too said, daily we are working on it. I have another call today, talking about Wednesday. I feel that in a very quick timeline, we're going to have a deal to be able to announce. We've been signing these prospects knowing that we were able to reach a deal. It's just getting some of the finer points negotiated out. I feel very confident that we're going to have a lace for all of our prospects, a place for all their prospects to play, which is really great to see for the fact that, no more loaning guys out to multiple affiliations to other teams. At least you know where you're at in terms of that. So it's good to see that, okay, it's getting settled. They're going to have an AHL team next year. It's, like I said, it could be, it's not official yet, but all signs are pointing to Chicago, but it could be someone else. We're not sure though, but just from rumblings around, people who cover the AHL and just some other higher up experts within the NHL, that you're looking at Chicago Wolves and the Carolina Hurricanes reunion and all that stuff. So Don Waddell did talk about, Rod Brind'Amour and his contract talks as well. And we will save that for segment 3, which we'll get to here in a second on a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. And I know everyone's going to ask about it, and I just, with a lot of stuff that's going on already with, recapping round 1, Don Waddell and all the talks that's going on with this is a topic that you really can't just save and overlook, and that's the Rod Brind'Amour contract talks. I know throughout the season, there was kind of like, a little sampling of, asking him, Rod Brind'Amour here, Don Waddell there, nothing super serious. Then all of a sudden, the Carolina Hurricanes win, their first round, which is the 6th straight year that the Hurricanes were able to do that. And just the fact that Rod Brind'Amour, he joins an elite company of Pat Burns as the only 2 head coaches to win, a playoff series in 6 consecutive seasons in their first 6 years behind the bench. So, big props to Rod Brind'Amour for, joining an elite company and being able to put himself there to where he has set himself to become one of the, most sought out coaches. And I know a lot of franchises are really hoping he becomes available because his contract is up. And, he's been asked about it, which we'll get to here in a little bit. And the one thing they asked Don Waddell about is like, all right, what's contract negotiations like with Rod Brind'Amour? Is he staying? Because there's been reports that, Ron Francis and the Seattle Kraken are kind of scoping out, Rod Brind'Amour. And, I've seen other team, some other fan bases trying to bring it, talk about getting Rod Brind'Amour as well. But it's been pretty evident from Don Waddell and Rod Brind'Amour himself that Rod doesn't want to stay in Carolina. And when asked about it, Don Waddell, and this was from Walt Ruff, the fact that Waddell was able to quickly put out that fire today in terms of all the contract talks. And Waddell said, "We talk daily about it. I feel confident, and I've said before that this deal will get done. Rod wants to be a Hurricane for life. To me, when you're dealing with contracts, there's always 2 sides. Rod's been great to deal with, and there's going to be a solution here very quickly, I feel. And I mean, yeah, Rod Brind'Amour has basically had a good, like, since like 2000, he's basically been in Carolina for pretty much for the last like 23 years. 20, 23, 24 years. Like, the fact that in 6 seasons as the bench boss, he has a regular season win percentage of 664, which gives him a record of 278, 130, and 44. And that is the second best among all NHL teams since 2018, 2019. And the fact that he also is, like I said, the second coach to go to win a playoff series in his first 6 seasons behind the bench as the main boss. Like, it makes no sense why Rod Brind'Amour would leave. And I don't think he wants to leave, and I don't think the Hurricanes want him to leave. They want him to stay in Carolina. He wants to stay in Carolina. His kids were raised here. Skylar Brind'Amour, he always was with the team, practicing and stuff like that. Going to Quinnipiac and won a national title there. And, his like preseason pro debut with the Florida Panthers was in PNC. He plays for the Charlotte Checkers down in Charlotte. Like, the Brind'Amour family knows North Carolina, and the fact that Rod's been here for so long, rep at NC State as well, because he was on ESPN The Point today talking to them, and it's just the fact that he wants to be here, he wants to stay here, and he's come out and said it, and it's just like, I really don't know how much more you could ask or, him to tell you, because Rod Brind'Amour in home playoff games, he is 15-4, which is the best in the AHL since 2022. Playoff pedigree, it's Rod Brind'Amour. He was the captain of the team and won the 2006 Stanley Cup. Like, this dude bleeds and breathes Carolina Hurricanes hockey and the area. He loves Raleigh. Like I said, his family basically was raised in Raleigh. I don't see him leaving. And, Steve Levy from The Point on ESPN even asked Rod Brind'Amour about his contract situation. Rod Brind'Amour said, everybody knows this. Everybody knows this is where I want to be. I think everyone else knows me to be a reasonable and fair. When two parties listen on any kind of level, if they want it to work out, it's going to work out. I'm very hopeful that we'll figure something out here, but we still have lots of time. We're focused on, obviously, taking care of business here. Hopefully all that stuff will work itself out. There you go. Rod wants to, he wants to stay. He wants to work it out, and that's it. Like, I really don't know what more to glean from that other than Rod Brind'Amour. Like, he was even wearing an NC State hat. I know some people are going to be like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. It's an NC State hat, but Rod loves this area. And this was the same thing, was it 3 or 4 seasons, like I think it was like 3 seasons ago. All the contracts for him and his coaching staff were up as well. Tim Gleason, Jeff Daniels, all of them. He made sure that his assistant coaches got taken care of first before his contract got taken care of. And I can see this is the same thing again, where he wants to focus on his assistants getting their contracts done, and then he wants to sign, because that's how much of a team player Rod Brind'Amour is. He can be like, give me my contract, I don't care what you do with everyone else. He's like, no, we are successful because of the coaches we have, and I want those guys to be taken care of first, and then I want to be taken care of. That is a former captain still being a captain, but now it's the captain of the coaches and the head honcho of this team. Rod Brind'Amour is a born leader. He's like, I know me and every other Caniac would run through a wall for Rod Brind'Amour, and that's just how he is as a person, and that's why I believe people don't need to worry. A contract's going to get done. There's nothing to worry about. Rod Brind'Amour is going to be a Carolina Hurricane for life. All these reports of him possibly leaving and no, I wouldn't even worry about it. Focus on watching this team go win a Stanley Cup this year. Contracts will get taken care of because Don Waddell wants to get it taken care of. Rod wants to get it taken care of. Tom Dundon doesn't want to get rid of one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. We're on a 6-year run of making the playoffs. So I'm not worried about it. Rod Brind'Amour staying. End of story. There's nothing else to talk about. That's all it is. It's just you have to ask the questions. They gave them the answers. By all conclusions, Rod Brind'Amour is going to be a Carolina Hurricane. And that's pretty much it. The only other update in terms of news and stuff like that, the Hurricanes will be practicing at PNC Arena on this morning at 11 a.m. Players and Rod Brind'Amour will be available to the media and stuff like that on Zoom and all that good stuff. Of course, Hurricanes PR will post that once everything's taken care of. But yes, there is a Thursday morning practice, this morning at PNC Arena at 11 o'clock and all that good stuff. But that will wrap up, this Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Like as always, thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. I've loved doing the show for you guys. It seems like everyone's been loving it, loving all the feedback, loving the reviews and ratings and stuff like that, just the interactions. So, and the subscriptions has been going up too on YouTube. So I've been really, really enjoying it. If you want to see more connected with me, you can follow me at OneTrueZach on Twitter or X or however you want to call it. Also, LO_Hurricanes for the podcast. I have a personal link tree in my bio where you can find all my articles at the Hockey Writers, articles, newsletters, premium content, all that stuff's over there. If you want to check out my other podcast, The Surgecast, there's a YouTube and a podcast link to go check those out. And then for this podcast, specifically Locked On Hurricanes, there's a link to where you can listen to the show and also check it out on YouTube. If you're on the podcast side of things, please leave a 5-star rating. That will really get me promoted more on the Apple podcast side of things or just wherever you listen to your shows. And if you leave a review with your 5-star rating, I just might leave it on the podcast. If you're on the YouTube side of things, make sure to hit subscribe and also to hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Also hit the thumbs up button because that will really help me out as well to get to other Caniacs. And like I said, share it with other Caniacs that you know. So that way they're everydayers just like you and stuff like that. And we're getting ever so much closer to 1,000 because we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So I want to do something very, very cool for you guys. But like I said, this was a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone has a great Thursday. Hope everyone just gets to enjoy some nice weather, get to relax a little bit, don't have to worry about the Hurricanes and all that stuff because we already know they're going to the second round of the 2024 NHL playoffs. And until next time, guys, as always, let's go Canes.